Hey guys, I'm here at Powhatan High School today working with the ambassadors for Morgan's Message, and we're here to normalize the conversation around mental health, especially mental health for youth athletes. So I've got my teal on and I'm ready to go, and I hope you guys enjoy the presentation. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you coming in here and allowing me to visit with you guys during your Indian time. Thank you to Maisie Harmon for putting this together and inviting me in to talk a little bit about my journey and my story, and more importantly, talk a little bit about Morgan's Message and why it exists. It's something that I think is really important. My name is Chris Gorez. I have been a performance coach for the last 18, 19 years. I've presented all over this country. I've presented all over the world in countries like Korea, Poland, England, Spain, and today is probably one of the most important presentations that I've ever given because it is about mental health and normalizing that conversation and hopefully giving you guys some tools and some insight onto what that really means, what it means to struggle, what it means to talk about mental health. Full disclaimer, I am not a mental health pro. I believe that's important for me to say right off the bat. I can't give you professional advice. I can't give you professional help. All I can do is give you my story. That's the only thing I'm an expert on, is my own story. So today I'm going to talk to you as somebody who is a former student athlete. I played football at Cornell University. I know what it's like to compete on the gridiron. I know what it's like to compete in the most challenging academic place that you could possibly be in the Ivy League. I'm going to talk to you as a coach. I've coached on the youth level, high school level, college level, pro level, international athlete level. So I can talk to you from that perspective. I'm also going to talk to you as somebody who is a parent. I'm a parent of young athletes who are going through their journey right now. And I can talk to you about the sports industry, the youth sports industry, because I am a business owner. I do own a business called Onyx Elite, where we do train young athletes and help them get stronger, get faster, and all that. But again, this is really going to be more about my story and my vision. One of the things that I always wanted to be is I wanted to be everything for everyone. That's not necessarily a reasonable thing, and we'll get into that in the course of this presentation. But when somebody needed my help to get faster, cool, I can help you get faster. If you wanted to come and get stronger, cool, I can help you get stronger. You're coming back from an ACL, cool, easy. Then that became, hey, I need help with school. I need help with managing my relationship. I need help with talking to my mom and dad. I need help with talking to my brother and sister, right? So I started to become a little bit of everything for everyone, and I embraced that role. It was something that I was good at. A little bit about me, when I was in high school, I was a great student athlete. I went to a place called Good Counsel High School in Maryland. It's one of the most competitive football conferences in the country, and I was a good athlete, so I got along with a lot of the athletic kids in the school. I was also a straight A student, and I was in the highest math classes you could be in. You don't get into a place like Cornell without taking some really high classes, right? So I was really good friends with the nerdy types, right? I was there with them, and I got along with them. I was in chorus when I was in high school, so I got along with the artistic kids, right? So I got along with all kinds of different groups, all kinds of different people from different backgrounds. As a Filipino American, I grew up in an all-black neighborhood where all of my friends were black at home. And I went to an all-white school, so I got along with all kinds of different demographics. So for me to be able to connect with everybody, that was a skill for me that I really truly cherished. I thought it was a strength of mine. Later on, I knew that sometimes your greatest strength can also become your greatest weakness. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But my vision was to be everything for everyone. So when we built this company, coming back from training some of the best athletes in the world, we wanted to build a company and a community that was going to make an impact on a positive impact on everyone, and we built that from the ground up. We're doing that now. We're 7 years in. We're proud of what we've done. But back in 2021, I experienced something that I never thought that I was going to experience, and what I experienced was success. I thought that I had made it. I looked around and I saw that, hey, I was doing really, really well. My family and I had just built a house. I have a beautiful wife. I have 4 beautiful kids. The company is doing well. I'm traveling all over the world, giving presentations, and people respect me. but it felt empty. It felt like, is this it? Is this success? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? Because it feels like nothing, right? And that's when I started to realize that there's a big difference between success and fulfillment. You will never be successful enough. I promise you that. There are people in this world, and this might be you right now, and you're thinking, man, if I just get into a great school, if I just get another offer, if I just get my offer from D3 and now I get into a D1 school, if I get more playing time, if I get all region, all state, if I get all American, if I make it to the pros, that will solve all my problems. It won't. I promise you it won't. I've dealt with a lot of these athletes who are in the pros, and they deal with the same mental health struggles that you are dealing with too, because fulfillment is not external. It can't come from external validation. And when I was looking for that, that's what led me down a really, really dark path. And what I started to do was I started to compare myself to everybody else. I started to drink the Kool-Aid. We call this Kool-Aid in the NFL. When people start reading their own press clippings, they start to think, oh, I'm great. I'm a great wide receiver. I'm going to have a long career. I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. I started to read my own. And then I started to compare myself with everybody else that was out there. So I lost a little bit of a sense of my mission. My mission was to serve athletes, to serve families, and to help them be the best versions of themselves. My mission was to serve God. My mission was to serve other people and have God serve other people through me. But what happened was I started to believe my own hype. I went to a wedding of one of my clients. She had torn her ACL. She was at the University of North Carolina. She had torn her ACL twice, and I had helped her come back. She invited me to the wedding. And her dad got up there, and during the speech, she said, Chris was an angel. And then I started to believe that, and that was my downfall. It wasn't because he said something nice. It was because he said something nice, and I started to think that what was happening was because of me. Look at all these people doing all these great things. It's because of me. And that was wrong. It wasn't because of me. It was because of what God was doing through me. And I forgot that. And so I started comparing myself to everybody else that was out there. Instead of serving my clients, instead of serving my people, what I wanted to do was serve my own ego. I wanted to be the one that everybody posted about. When I saw that my clients were winning Super Bowls and NBA championships and MVPs and gold medals, I wanted that adulation. I wanted those accolades too. Where was my recognition? Where was my credit? Who's giving me credit for everything that I'm doing, right? And that comparison, always comparing myself to everybody else, always seeking that external adulation, that led to a feeling of numbness where I felt nothing. Again, here I was, super successful. People in the industry are looking to me for help. People are asking me, how are you doing this? And I would go home and feel numb. Nothing felt good enough anymore because I needed that boost. I needed that adulation. I needed that external award that somebody was going to give me and tell me and praise me like, oh my God, you're doing so well. That's what I was looking for. And none of it was ever enough. And I lost my connection. And when you lose your connection, there's a big void, and that void gets filled. All voids get filled, right? You heard that the expression, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Well, here's the real truth about that. Yes, you can't pour from an empty cup, but there's also no such thing as an empty cup. You leave your cup empty, it's going to get filled with something. It's not always positive, right? And you guys can look up there and you can see that there are all kinds of things to fill that void. There are all kinds of bad habits out there, whether it be drinking, drugs, doom scrolling at night, comparing yourself to everybody else. There are all kinds of voids that are readily available to you, and they're right there in your pocket. You guys are living in the most challenging time for a teenager right now. More challenging than anybody has ever had it because of what's available to you in your pocket. All of these voids get filled, right? In a book that was written by Napoleon Hill back in like the early 1900s, I would say, he wrote a book called Outwitting the Devil. And in the book, the main character is able to land an interview with the devil. And the devil is forced to answer his questions. And one of the questions is, how do you do it? How do you get people to fall into evilness? Or how do you get people to fall into it? And the devil says, I get them into a hypnotic rhythm. That's it. Where they're not even thinking about doing the things that they're doing, they're just doing it. And that's what I was doing. the things that I was doing, I was in a hypnotic rhythm. I didn't even know that I was doing it. I wasn't even conscious about it. I was just doing it, right? So who drives here in this room? Does anybody drive? Do you guys ever, like, when you're coming out of the house and you're supposed to go one way, but you go the way that you kind of always go, right? And you forget, you're like, oh man, I'm actually supposed to turn right here, but I turn left because I always turn left. Does that ever happen to any of you? Yeah? All the time, right? That's what I mean by hypnotic rhythm. We get into these hypnotic rhythms, and I learned how to fill my voids with an addiction to adulation, an addiction to social media, right? What I learned about addiction is I looked into this, and again, I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not an expert in psychiatry or anything, but there was an experiment done with rats. And during this experiment, what they would do is they would isolate these rats in a cage. And in that cage, the rats had an option to drink regular fresh water or laced water. And almost all the time, the rats would choose the laced water, the water that gave them a boost, gave them a high, right? And they became addicted to that water. So what happened is they took those rats and then they reintegrated those rats with other rats and introduced what they called Rat Park, where they had a social community with other rats, where they had slides and pinwheels and all those other things. And almost every single one of those rats that became addicted to the laced water, they chose fresh water again. It was, and the conclusion there was that the opposite of addiction, no matter what the addiction is, because addictions can work very similarly, whether it's drugs, drinking, gambling, whatever it is, shopping, Starbucks, 7 Brew for some of you, right? Whatever the addiction is, right? The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And that really resonated with me because I started to realize, hey, the reason why I'm addicted to these things is because I'm no longer connected to my people. I've lost that connection, right? One of my favorite movies and musicals that I watch with my family is The Greatest Showman. It's a movie about P.T. Barnum, Philip Barnum, who created the circus. And it's not a factual movie, but it's a cool musical if you guys have ever seen it. And one of the lines in one of the songs is this right here. Because from then rubble, what remains can only be what's true. If all was lost, there's more I gained because it led me back to you. But those are someone else's dreams, the pitfalls of the man I became. For years and years, I chased their cheers, the crazy speed of always needing more. But when I stop and see you here, I remember who all this was for. Really, really, really resonated with me. Because as I chased cheers, as I chased someone else's dreams, as I chased this dream, this facade of going out and getting praise and adulation from everybody as the world's greatest trainer, I looked behind and I saw the rubble that was in my own house that I created. It was so bad. I'll tell you this, it was so bad that in 2021, I had letters written. I wrote letters. One to my daughter, one to my son, one to each one of my kids, one to my wife. I was so disconnected. I couldn't feel anything. None of my friends could ever console me. It was a really, really tough time. And then I got a phone call from my mom. My mom said, Lola's dead. Lola means grandmother in Tagalog. And I couldn't deal with that at the time. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. It's over for me. I don't even want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't care how selfish this looks. I don't care anymore. I couldn't feel anything. But what my Lola did in her wisdom is she saved my life from heaven. Because in her will, she put money aside for everybody around the world to travel back for the funeral. And for the first time in years, I had seen all my family, all my uncles and aunts, all my cousins who supported me and loved me. And when I got to see them, I got to see their faces. I got to touch them. They got to touch me. And they got to tell me how proud they were of me. And it had nothing to do with what I could do, right? It was just because I was their cousin. I was their nephew, right? And so that was something that really saved my life. And it got me reconnected with my family. And I started to realize that when I looked back at all those days when I was struggling and looking for praise online, looking for somebody else to give me a cheer or adulation or award, It was my daughter who was there to hug me when I got home after a bad day at work. It was my son who didn't care about any of that. He just loved me because I was his father. It was my wife who forgave me for all the bull stuff that I bring her through, and she loved me anyway. And that's when I started to really realize what really mattered to me, right? And I look back at this verse. One of my favorite verses is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? It's a pretty popular verse amongst athletes for sure. You'll see that in a lot of tattoos, right? But the one right before that is Philippians 4:12. For I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therefore to be content. I know both how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. What that means is it's okay to be competitive, but be grateful for where you are. It's a skill to be both hungry and full at the same time. It's a skill to be grateful for where you are on the way to where you're going. That was a skill that I had to learn. And so this is a verse that has become one of my favorites. And what I've learned about my own fulfillment and my own peace is that there's three things involved in that, right? And this is borrowed from Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs, if you guys have ever seen that. But the first thing that you need is security. I won't ever tell you that money doesn't buy happiness, because if you're below like the point where you have the necessities in life, like sure, money is going to help you buy a little bit of peace, right? You need to be able to afford security, a place to sleep at night where you don't feel like you're going to freeze from the winter, burn in the summer, you don't feel like you're going to get attacked, right? You feel secure. You need security in your life. But that's not enough. You can have all the money and security in the world. If you don't have purpose, you're also not going to be truly fulfilled. You're not going to be truly happy. You're not going to have peace. You have to have a purpose, something that you do, that you feel proud of, that you know, hey, only I can do this. This is something unique that I bring to the world. And I love bringing it to the world. And then you need that sense of belonging, that sense where you can be around these people and you don't have to perform for them. I talked about earlier about how as a young athlete, as a young student, as a young person, I grew up being able to fit into all crowds, and that was a good skill, but it was also a big weakness of mine. Because I was so good at fitting in, I was always a version of myself that I thought would win your approval. Instead of just being me and who I truly was, every crowd that I was in, I would just do what I could to fit in and win approval. And that wasn't always the most healthy thing for me. That wasn't always the most healthy choice, right? So when I get around my family, when I get around my friends, the ones who are truly my friends, I don't have to perform for them. I don't have to do something for them to gain their approval. I can just be me. And so I encourage you to explore these three things, right? Yes, you need security, you need safety, you need those basic resources, you need to prepare yourself for school, you need to prepare yourself for what's out there, right? You need that peace of mind. But purpose is why I'm here today. Because there is a huge purpose void in youth sports. Years ago, I would have told you that youth sports is the greatest vehicle to help a young child find their purpose. That is no longer the case today. There are companies out there who are preying on parents and preying, like I know it because I'm in this industry. I know it because I was at the Super Bowl this past February, and I'm sitting there in the Amazon suites, and Coca-Cola executives, Nike executives, they are leaving their high-paying positions at these companies to go start companies in youth sports, because that's how much money is there to be made. So when I say that because I still believe that there's a place for youth sports to help you find yourself, but don't fall into that comparison trap. Don't fall into that purpose void. Don't fall into that social bribe of trying to fit in, trying to gain approval. Right? Because like I said, there is no offer that's coming that's going to fix all your problems if that's what you're seeking, right? There is no playing time or award that you can win that's all of a sudden going to give you peace. There's always going to be something else that you're going to strive for. And what I've seen from families is you'll get an offer from a really good school, but it's not enough. I need another one. So-and-so has got 30 offers. So what? You can only take one. So-and-so has got 5 D1 offers. So what? You got a great school to go to, right? you're missing out on that joy because you're comparing it to somebody else, right? And that's what's happened in youth sports. It's a crazy thing, and you're losing your purpose. You're losing your ability to serve yourself, to serve others, and to make that impact. And then the last thing that I would say is find a belonging. Find a place that you belong to. One of the things that I love doing now is I love joining clubs. Like, I like doing things like I like playing chess. I like piano. I like doing all kinds of different things. I like carpentry. And it's cool to go into some of these clubs where people have no idea who I am, who have no idea what I do. And it's just cool to fit in, to be accepted into that club just because of who I am, not because of what I do, right? So find those people, and believe it or not, you already have those people. Those people are in your house. Those parents who love you, and they may not be able to express it. They may not be able to express it in the way that you want them to. You may not be able to express it the way that they want you to either, but it's there. You got to explore. You got to fight for that connection, right? Fight for that connection, because there are other forces out here in this world who are pulling at that connection and hoping that you lose it, right? And the last thing I want to leave you with is this vision of a candle, right? When it comes to mental health, when it comes to serving others, when it comes to being a light in the darkness, I want you guys to picture yourself in a dark, rainy forest at night. We can't see the moon, there's no light. The trees are blocking out everything. You can't see a thing, right? Now, if somebody came in there with a spotlight that was super bright, what's the first thing that you would do? Somebody shining that light right in your face. What would you do, J-Mo? Cover your eyes, right? Protect yourself, right? I don't want to be the spotlight that causes everybody to defend themselves. I don't want to be the one that's like, hey, pointing out, hey, this is where you're wrong. This is where you are. This is where you need to be. That's not who I am. Instead, what I want to be is that candle. Because again, envision yourself in that dark forest. Everything is super dark. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're looking at. And then all of a sudden you see a candle walking. And it's walking towards the exit. You know it's walking towards the exit. Do you start to follow that candle? Is it easier to look at that candle without being blinded? Yeah, absolutely. So if I can be a candle that helps you find your path, that's what I want to be. And the last thing about a candle is this. You can't light somebody else's light with a flashlight, but you can with a candle. So hopefully after today, what we can create is a community where all of us become candles, and all of us can live our truths, and all of us can find our peace and our fulfillment and help others do the same thing. So I appreciate you guys for coming out. Thank you for your time. I know that this is a valuable time to get your snacks in, to get your extra studying in, or whatever it is. But thank you to Maisie for inviting me out. And if I can ever be a resource for any of you, please feel free to call me or email me or anything. Thank you.